The first duty of government is to protect our rights.
It's our job to maintain the proper role of government in what we were tasked to do.
Obviously, we over budgeted last year. I hate to say that I was right, but I was right.
And I think that that's what we need to look at more, is trying to get back to what we used to be, where our churches and our families took care of each other instead of relying on the state.
And we have no way to maintain control over the spending of this program, and it will be a disaster for this state long term.
But we have a whole gamut of kids whose parents would like to do something for them and they cannot.
I take our constitutional rights, the constitutional rights of my constituents, very seriously.
This is simply about putting it out of reach of young, innocent, vulnerable children and making our libraries and schools a safe place for them to go.
And I am increasingly frustrated that we cannot stop ourselves from drinking at the public trough.
He's sounding the alarm. He's saying if we don't address these issues, we potentially might have greater problems moving forward.
Mr. Speaker, no matter how you look at it, no matter how you boil this down, there is never any time that a parent's right to govern what their children see and what they're exposed to should ever be bypassed.
If I was looking at a business and I was looking at these figures, there would be heads rolling because this is unsustainable.
We're supposed to be bottom-up government. We're supposed to be representing my citizens' ideas and your citizens' ideas, and we're supposed to be discussing them and debating them to come to a conclusion.
We need to start making Idaho first. We need to start making America first.
We need to be protecting our First Amendment rights, not inventing ways to slowly chip away at them.
The First Amendment and our freedom of religion, freedom of speech are our first liberties. They are so important. We don't have the rest without them.
Idaho Signal is on the air. Welcome, everybody. It's January 10, 2025. My name is Matt Edwards. Welcome to the program. It's great to have you here. We're wrapping up the first week of the legislative session, also the first week of Idaho Signal back on the air. So we are very pleased to have you here. It's been a really great week. We've had some fantastic guests. However, there's been a dark cloud over our country as we watch Los Angeles, Santa Monica, the Pacific Palisades, Pasadena, and all points around there be succumb with these fires. And it really just kind of puts things in perspective, especially here in Idaho, because we are a big wilderness state, that we wanted to get some perspective on, not only on the fires down south, but also what we do up here in Idaho to mitigate this kind of stuff. And so we're very fortunate in the Idaho State Legislature to have a senator who actually was and hopefully I get this title right, but he was a former deputy fire chief of the Santa Monica Fire Department. So right down there. So Senator Carl Bierke out of District 5 up here in North Idaho joins me now. Senator, good to see you. I wanted to kind of get your thoughts real quick on what you see going down in your former stomping grounds.
Well, like I told my wife this morning and people here at the Capitol, I have a kind of an urge to be down there again. I mean, it's really tough to be sitting up here and.
Oh, did we lose his audio? Oh, I think we lost. Oh, there. I think you're back.
Oh, I'm back.
Yeah, there we go.
Well, I was saying it's tough to be up here watching something that used to help mitigate back in the day, so to speak. And I still have friends and retired folks that live around Pacific Palisades and the Malibu and Santa Monica area. So it's been heartbreaking to hear some of the things that have been happening.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I mean, I'm originally from the area as well. Spent a lot of time down there, and so it is very heartbreaking. Our heart goes out to all of our family and friends that are down there. And one of the things that really strikes us, especially from a leadership standpoint, is wildfires do happen. They do break out. Sometimes it's arson. Sometimes it's natural. But that's the entire system, right, that we've set up with our fire departments, is that you guys are trained, you go out there and you fight these fires bravely. And if you don't have the tools or resources needed, then you have something that happens like this. And it's not just the tools that you need to fight the fire, but it's also the things you do beforehand, the mitigation of the brush and the reservoirs and things like that. What was your experience during your time down there? Did you find yourself in that bureaucratic mess of not having the tools necessary? What was it? What was the sentiment?
I think there's a tremendous transition that took place over the 30 years or so that I was in the business. When I transitioned out of the medical side of things, when I was making the big career change, my first foray into firefighting was to take a kind of an entry-level job in hopes of gaining enough experience to be able to test for municipalities. And so I was on an 11,000-acre brush fire in 1985 as a brush firefighter. So, all this comes back to me, and had several other occasions during the years where we were fighting fires, especially in Malibu. There's a bunch of things I could touch on here, from the leadership vacuum, some of the stuff that I was doing later on in my career. There was so many people attritioning out, let's say at LA City Fire Department, just normal retirements for guys that have put 30 plus years into the business. We were lacking strike team leaders, and those are really critical leaders on a big brush fire. You lead, there's many different aspects of it, but for instance, you would lead 5 different engines, and it's called a strike team. And you're really controlling it at the ground level. And we were losing these folks. So my job was to train these people so we could make up for a deficit that we had at that time. And it's interesting, if you think about it, not much has changed as far as the attritioning of people that are kind of baby boomers and leaving the service. But we had something happen through COVID where a lot of my friends that were maybe going to put another 2 or 3 years into the fire service because they were faced with the challenge of taking a vaccine that they particularly weren't happy about doing, just decided to retire early. So that's one aspect. I won't, I could talk about this all day long, but it's a huge component of what goes on the ground level when you're fighting these major fires is the leadership team. A lot of people say, oh, this is unprecedented. If you go back to the early 70s, the whole state was burning, right? So, you could say, there's always this argument of climate change versus how much we've done in mitigation, and just doing that type of work ahead of the fire. There's a good argument to be made for we've changed a lot of things. The good thing that came out of those early fires in the early 70s was the incident management system, which really ended up setting up the structure for how we command these major incidents that we all use to this day, especially on these major incidents and brush fires. But the other part of that was really critical was the California mutual aid system, so that when these things happen, we have all these cities, my strike team that we put together to go to many fires up and down the state of California was a combination between Santa Monica, Beverly Hills, and Culver City Fire. So, there's a lot of coordination that's involved in that. Yeah. So it's interesting. I can't be the Monday morning quarterback up here in beautiful North Idaho. I can just say that my heart goes out to the folks that are dealing with this on the mitigation and the firefighting end of it. And of course, all the folks that have, suffered losses. It's tragic, and
yes,
we're praying for them.
Yeah. But the same here. I just got word this morning that they're even in our area, I don't know if you know this, but there's a bunch of firefighting folks up here that have left and gone down to California to help there. And so I'm sure we're going to see a lot more of that because some of these fires are still 0 or single digit containment, which is a bad news. So shifting to Idaho, what do we do differently up here? Because we have wildfires all the time as well. I mean, this is a giant forest area. There's a lot of public lands that may not be managed, or they are managed. I mean, what can you tell us about what Idaho does in terms of mitigating these types of disasters?
Well, every state has kind of a different system, and they have different challenges. You know, the fires you're seeing now, like in Pacific Palisades and Malibu and through the valley there, most of that fire is really kind of flashy fuels and then chaparral. It's not like the big timber stuff. And I mentioned offline that what we do up here is a lot predicated on the fact that we have a huge economy in our timber industry. So we have a lot of at stake to make sure we protect that. We're really
that's product out there, right?
Yeah,
that's the product.
That's product. You know, in that Malibu Pacific Palisades area, obviously it's riddled with $20 million homes, but that's what we call watershed. So our main concern is making sure that water is able to be retained and not flow out into the ocean, that it'll seep into the soil. Here, it's the timber industry. So we're a little bit different in that respect. In California, obviously we had what was basically Cal Fire. And of course, the feds get involved as well. But there's much more interaction at the local level, the municipalities, the counties, and the big cities. It's like a big group effort. Idaho Department of Lands here is kind of like the forefront. It's interesting because my son works for a fire department here, actually works for Meridian, and he's always chomping at the bit to want to be involved in going to one of these fires because he remembers his old man doing it back in the day and being gone for 2 or 3 weeks at a time. And it's there's my phone again, but we do a good job. But again, we're kind of like having to share that responsibility with the feds, and the state and the federal government have completely different ways of looking at these problems sometimes. And when they own 61% of our lands, that's quite a bit. We're always trying to collaborate in a way that our interests are met, and sometimes we're maybe inching into taking a little bit more of that land back, or at least the responsibility for managing the forest.
Yeah. That would be good if we had that for sure. You mentioned something about the water, and this is something that I think a lot of people are really frustrated at hearing, that the reason why certain fire hydrants were empty or there was no water. Have you ever encountered that? Or did you ever expect that? Was that ever part of one of those escalation moments? What do we do when there's no water in our fire hydrants? That's bizarre.
Yeah, obviously that's key. I can look at Santa Monica. We had a system. 60% came from the Metropolitan Water District. The other 40 was major wells, most of them going down San Vicente. And those wells need electricity to pump that water, right? And we had zones of our city that, high pressure, medium to a lower pressure. When we went on these brush fires, it's a huge issue, right? Because the power's out. We've got less pressure in some of these areas. We do a lot of tankers, water tankers, relay pumping and things like that. It's one of those things when you have time and you're able to kind of, as a management team, figure out, water sources. Obviously you have the Pacific Ocean there, the Great Pacific Fire Break, right? If you can get helicopters up and they can do Bambi buckets and they can fill 500 gallons up, if I recall, and then drop it. But when you've got 100-mile-an-hour winds or gusts of 100 miles an hour, or just sustained winds and the kind of issues they were dealing with, sometimes there's just absolutely nothing you can do but to kind of retreat, have a plan, look at a map, and decide what you can actually do, and come back and fight it when you're able to. There's just some things you can't overcome.
Yeah. All right. Well, Senator, I know this isn't necessarily, nobody wants to be dealing with this, and you certainly have a lot on your plate, and I appreciate you taking the time out to speak on this. I want to have you back and talk more about legislation, about what you're doing with our budgets and everything else. So I hope you have a somewhat comfortable weekend, and we'll see you next time.
Well, I always appreciate the opportunity. I apologize. I could probably talk about this forever, but our hearts and our prayers go out to the folks in California and the firefighters and the people that are suffering loss. And we're doing our best here at the Statehouse. It's been a busy first week, and I'm looking forward to accomplishing good things. And I appreciate being on the show, Matt. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Senator. All right. Take care now.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right. Yeah, wow, incredible. We are very lucky to have Senator Bierke up here for some of that insight, so we appreciate that. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back. We got Brian Allman on the line, and we'll get into some more stuff in Idaho.
And that's exactly what happened. You want to pull the tape? You can pull the tape because we now got video.
Idaho is the dirt under your fingernails after an honest day's work. Idaho is the hug around your neck when your daughter spells her first word. Idaho is the written word of the law, steadfast and impartial, guarding liberty for all. Idaho is the family rifle passed down, a legacy of protection and the right to stand firm. Idaho is the echo of your own voice, unshaken and free, standing tall among the world's silenced. Idaho is the home that's built to weather storms, not empty wallets. Idaho is the quiet trust between a patient and healer, unbroken and sacred. Idaho is the hymn carried by the Spirit, gathering neighbors together in faith and purpose. Idaho is the laughter around a campfire, a family's bond growing stronger with every word. Idaho is the pioneer's will, firm and clear. We govern ourselves, free and unbound. Idaho is what America was. Let's keep it that way. Ask your legislator to sign the Citizens Alliance of Idaho pledge to preserve our shared values. We ride together.
All right, welcome back to the program. January 10, it's the Friday show. We got to do something special on Fridays. I got to figure out what that is. But if you have suggestions, leave a comment. We want to see those comments coming in over on X, on Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you're watching. Leave us a comment. We'll throw it up on screen. We want to hear your voice. We want to amplify your voice, and so forth. We also want to give a shout out. Is this a shout out? No, this is an opportunity for you to have great coffee in your own house if you don't live in Coeur d'Alene. If you don't live in Coeur d'Alene and head over to Life Public House to get your coffee, you can go to lifecda.com, use a promo code Signal, and get 10% off your online order. Just order a bunch of coffee. Just order it, have it delivered to you. What better way to live your life than having wonderful fresh roasted. Is it supposed to be fresh? Yeah, you want fresh, everything you want fresh. Like coffee is not aged, right? You want fresh roasted coffee. I walked into Life one day and they were roasting the Mineral Ridge. I was like, that smells good. What is that? And they said, this is our new blend. It's mineral. It's not a blend. I think it's a single bean. But anyway, it was Mineral Ridge. I got some. That instantly became my favorite coffee at Life. So I get a bag of that. You can too. LifeCDA.com, promo code Signal. You get 10% off your online order. All right, let's bring in Brian Allman here. Brian, our contributing editor, if he is ready. Hey, Brian, good to see you today. I don't know if you noticed this week, but there was this DEI task force. This DEI stuff, especially when you look at all the DEI things that are going on in government and in positions of power and stuff. What's going on in our higher institutions here in Idaho? DEI is on the chopping block, so to speak. So there was this big task force that was going on. Ben Taves was in the committee room delivering. I think they're coming up with a resolution. So you want to give us a little bit of a background here, if you got any? Oh, we need your mic. We need to put his mic on.
Sorry, I've been muted all this time. DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, has been a big culture war issue, and you've seen the left pushing this for many years. This idea that we should judge people not by the content of their character, but by the color of their skin, or their gender, or sexual orientation, or disability status, or even if they're overweight. I mean, they've come up with all sorts of crazy categories, and then they use this essentially to divide people, to say that certain people from people groups have innate knowledge that other people don't have, and we have to listen to their lived experiences and let them speak their truth, et cetera, et cetera. And it is extremely divisive, I believe, because it takes away from this idea that we're all Americans, that we're all we're all sharing this country together. It's dividing us up, and it's especially been on college campuses. Part of that is due to federal laws and the way courts have interpreted those laws, saying that you have to have equality of outcome. And if there's no equality, if there's disparate impact on anything, then there's obviously some sort of pernicious systemic racism or sexism or classism or ableism going on. But yeah, the tide has been turning the last couple of years. I remember in the last year of the Trump administration, Christopher Rufo was able to convince Tucker Carlson and President Trump to speak out against DEI, forced DEI in government offices, and now it's coming down to colleges and universities. And it's so much so, a couple of years ago, the legislature passed a budget that stripped out some money, trying to push the colleges and universities, the state-run ones, the ones that use tax dollars, to stop the DEI nonsense. And they got around it by just using other pots of money. And so the legislature's been struggling with this. A couple of years ago, they banned CRT, critical race theory, and that was a component of this this whole new new divisive ideology, but they just renamed it. They called it by different things. They inserted the same tenets in things like SEL, social emotional learning. So this thing, it's like a cancer that spreads through everything, and it's hard to go after it.
This is what Marxism is, right, Brian? They co-opt language, they use words that we all love and try to admire and try to live up to, and then they redefine them in their own way, but still use the same words, so people get duped into believing whatever it is they're saying. So sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. It's so frustrating when you hear words like social emotional learning, like, oh, that sounds so it's
diversity, equity,
yeah,
inclusion. Who wants to be tarred as being against inclusion? Are you exclusive? Well, I don't know. Sometimes, it depends on the context. But so earlier this year, or last year, I guess it's 2025 now, the jury in Ada County handed down a verdict against Boise State University for essentially pushing big city coffee off campus because of their support for police and first responders. And the reason that had become an issue was because a lot of the students at BSU, wouldn't say a lot, they're a very loud group of students at BSU who had come up through DEI programs in elementary school and college. Many of these, the leaders of these student groups actually had titles, related to DEI. They were being paid by the college and by the taxpayers of Idaho to essentially not teach math or science or history, but to agitate for more DEI. And that's one of the things they're trying to get rid of here. Anyway, these student groups got so loud that the school, rather than telling the student groups to settle down and grow up, they essentially pushed this coffee company off of campus. And the owner of the company sued and won a big reward, which I don't know. We'll see if it gets paid by tax dollars as well. But in the wake of that, I was thinking, this needs to be rooted out. And so I drafted a resolution for the Idaho Republican Party, and they ended up passing it at the winter meeting last week. But some people were asking me, why do it now? Because the State Board of Education has already passed their own resolution telling these colleges and universities to shut down their DEI programs. We won. It's over, right? Well, remember what happened with CRT. They just changed the names and kept doing it. So I really believe we need legislation to address this, to make sure this is nipped in the bud. It's done. It's not going to come back. And that's why I pushed to carry my resolution, and also why I'm so glad to see Senator Taves is looking at legislation as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And, and what it really just comes down to, again, is this notion that we are going to judge people, like you said, I mean, we're going to judge people by the content of their character, right? We're going to judge people by their merit, right? And merit is a strong word here, because there's a lot of that language that's in this resolution that they're trying to say, we are not going to base our hiring decisions or teaching decisions or any of these things on race, gender, status, any of those terms and descriptives of people. They're going to do it based on your work, based on your merit. And one of the things that you can identify a cultural Marxist by is how they try and manipulate and make you think that you don't know what you're talking about, or they don't know what you're talking about. So they want you to define it. That way they can redefine it later. Senator Melissa Wintrow is a master of this. And I don't know if she's again, I'm not, all right, whatever. Let's just get to the clip. But she's a master of asking obvious questions. We're going to have a compilation of her soon enough. But here's what she said during the this task force. I believe it was yesterday. She's going to ask the Josh Whitworth, I think, who's the executive director of the State Board of Education, what merit is. Let's listen to some of this and how she tries to coax him into answering.
Definition, so I get it right. So basically, it's any approach that would prioritize these things over individual merit. And what I'm trying to understand is what individual merit means. Like, I'm having a sincere, what is that about?
Yep. Co-Chair Boyle and Senator Winter.
So we could show the whole clips over and over again and it take too much time. But she asks that question, he gives an answer, and then afterwards she has a follow up. So let's listen to the follow up and his answer.
Okay, I'm just trying to understand though, what is merit? What you just said, like you're talking about wrapping services around students and a holistic approach. And that resonates with me. Yep. That sounds good. I'm just not understanding what it means to have individual merit. Is that like you deserve something? What is the definition there you're trying to help me understand?
Co-Chair Boyle and Senator Wintro. Merit, to be specific, is that your experiences and things earn, your effort earns something, right? Your merit of what you do produces it. Not that anything that I can't control about me defines what I get access to. And so it's that action of doing something that we want to make sure is there. And that plays into a little bit of the expectation of our educational system, I would say, out of our higher educational system, is that these are adults stepping into education, and we want them to learn that personal responsibility to take action to do something. Not that we create something just to make them feel comfortable, but that we have the services available and make ourselves culturally focused on knowing that we go get the support that's out there, however that may be, regardless of how I look or feel or otherwise might identify.
Makes sense to me, right, Brian? Come on, doesn't that make sense? I mean, I feel like that makes sense.
With respect to Senator Wintro, she reminds me of Fat Tony, the mobster from The Simpsons, who, when he gets caught doing mobster things, is, well, what does illegal mean? I don't know.
Note to producers, let's grab that.
What the state board fellow said, Mr. Whitworth, was saying is interesting. Is saying that the purpose of college should be to, bring in adult students. I mean, we're not talking about children here. We're talking about people who are typically 18 or older, adults who can drive cars and sign up for the military and sign contracts. Functional adults, people who can vote. And we're going to give them in here and we're going to teach them how to take responsibility rather than making them feel good about themselves, which I think has been the push in higher education for 20, 30, 40 years to, forget actually teaching them things. We just want them to feel, have good self-esteem. And that's part of what the DEI is about. It's, and it's good to see this pivot. And, I'm glad to see we're addressing this. It's, some people try to say this isn't actually important. We just need to focus on, things that are actually meaningful to the people of Idaho. Well, this is extremely meaningful. This is the next generation of leaders, of workers, of voters. And are they going to be, coddled children all their lives, or are they going to be functional adults who can take responsibility for themselves and their communities?
That's exactly right, Brian. You hit the nail on the head right there. This is the future. If we are advancing people based on their color or their status, or we're giving them special treatment because of that, rather than their merit, rather than their work, rather than their competence, you're going to get people in power like you see what's happening down in Southern California right now. Or across the country, or here in our own state with the stupid decisions that we see handed down or being called. Like you're exactly right. So for these people to come in here, if it was so important to implement DEI, then it may as well be just as important to push back on it when it's failing and when it is. So Brian, great analysis as always on this issue. We love hearing it. Okay. Real quick though, we also wanted to say that we got an article up. Yep. I'm trying to segue into this article here. Over on X, if you go to the X Citizens Alliance of Idaho, it's at @citizens_Idaho. Follow that account. And here's our first week 1 almond recap. Walk us through this. I mean, it's going to walk people through the week, but you walk through what we got here, what we can look forward to.
Yeah, this was the very first week of the legislative session, so there's a lot of stuff going on, not yet a lot of depth,
Right.
if that makes sense. We don't know the details a lot of bills yet, or a lot of legislation, or a lot of debates, but a lot of things have been thrown out onto the carpet. So we had the State of the State address. The governor came out and shared his vision and his budget, which is obviously more spending. He did give a nod to some school choice for $50 million, but he wants to see accountability, whatever that means. We're still waiting to hear that. Speaker Moyle said the governor's $100 million of tax relief is a good start, but he wants to see more. We also got Representative Skog looking to make it harder to get citizens initiatives passed. We have Representative Ehart, who presented the resolution honoring the Boise State volleyball players for their courage. And I thought it was pretty amazing. She brought in Riley Gaines, the nationally recognized figure, the former college swimmer who had to face a man. She brought him in for remote testimony, or her in. I'm just confused on that now.
You're getting so confused now, yeah.
Yeah, Riley Gaines.
She is. If Riley, if anybody's a woman, Riley Gaines is all woman.
Yeah. Yeah, and she's sitting in the room. I was in there watching her remote testimony, and she's become such an effective and persuasive spokesperson for protecting women's sports. And
Yes.
so it was great to have her in there and be able to interact with the committee. Chairman Crane asked her several questions. We also had JFAC is looking at the budget. They're probably the only ones who've really done a lot of work this week. Most of the other committees just had a couple pro forma meetings where they introduced their pages and their attaches, maybe heard a few RSs, but JFAC's been busy. They're in there at 8 a.m. every day. The Joint Finance Appropriations Committee, 10 from the House, 10 from the Senate, and they are hearing presentations from the governor's office and from legislative services as they prepare to craft a budget for the state of Idaho.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, folks, we'll head over to the X account, and that's where we'll be publishing this article. So it's a great feature. X has got a great feature with this article thing, and you can share it. When you share an X article, anybody else can read it anywhere, so you don't have to have an X account, although that's highly encouraged. And that you follow us, and also you can follow Brian. Brian, where can we follow you?
Well, over on X, it's at GemStateBrian. Over on the web, it's gemstatechronicle.com. I'm working on a new feature that will keep track of some of the most interesting bills, like Representative Skogg's bill regarding citizens initiatives. I'm still working on the layout, but I'll have that published soon. So go there, bookmark it, check it out.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Brian. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you back here on Monday.
Thanks, Matt.
All right, take care. All right, folks, we're waiting on another guest. I'm not quite sure. Again, when we have legislators on, there's always things that pop up when they can't make it to a camera. So we'll see. We'll hang on, but let's take a quick break, and we'll be back.
Coming from within the system, which the process in the system is broken.
Idaho lawmakers swear an oath to support the Idaho and U.S. constitutions. But how's that working out for you? Because not all Idaho lawmakers share the same values. That's where the Citizens Alliance of Idaho pledge comes in. 10 statements inspired by those two founding documents that are designed to preserve our shared values. Values such as education freedom, safeguarding free speech, defending our protected right to self-defense, and being responsible stewards of taxpayer dollars. When a lawmaker signs the pledge, they are performing an act of political courage, accepting the challenge to be a champion for our values, and serving with political integrity. To find out if your lawmaker signed the pledge, visit idahopledge.com. Paid for by Citizens Alliance of Idaho. We ride together.
Okay, we have an addition this year that you guys have already seen. We debuted In the Know Idaho and their video on Monday. The video is up on our channels by itself, so it's on YouTube, it's on Rumble. I'm pretty sure it's on X as well, but it's out there from In the Know Idaho. Lily Alma, do we have that one? We can play a little bit of it. It's Dear Legislators. Show a little bit of that.
Dear legislators, hey, it's me, one of your constituents. I just wanted to check in and make sure that we're on the same page before you go and vote for a bunch of random stuff that we didn't ask you to do. I hope this message finds you happy, healthy, and keenly aware of the fact that we're watching you. Yes, you. Your every move. And we're looking forward to catching up at the end of this session to make sure that you did everything that we wanted. We don't want any funny business. We just want you to keep your promises. If you can get our taxes lower and protect our God-given rights.
Ah, very good. Okay, so we played that in full on Monday. You can find it on our YouTube channels and stuff. And In the Know Idaho, that's Lily Ullman, and she's joined the team. And one of the things that's great about Lily is like she runs a TPUSA chapter, I think, as well. So she's totally engaged. And we're going to debut another video. She took time out in December to head down to America Fest. Is that what it's called? AmFest, TPUSA's event down in Arizona, somewhere in Arizona, Phoenix maybe. And so she put a little package together of just a quick tour of what it looked like to be a guest at the convention, because it was such a huge event. And if you watched any of it, you probably watched mostly just the speeches and the coverage that was produced for TV. But she kind of gives a little bit of an inside look of what it looks like when a college student or a younger than me person heads to one of these events. So let's watch that.
Hey there, it's Lily from In the Know Idaho, and I'm here at an undisclosed location. I can't tell you where I am, unfortunately. It's very secret. So yeah, it's probably gonna be a good day. There's a lot of conservative voices here. We're gonna walk around, see what's going on, and hopefully we'll see some really patriotic stuff going on in there. Going down the escalator. I really wish they would make it more obvious what kind of event this is. Can't really tell. Hey, there's everybody. Got some stuff going on over here, stuff going on over there. Somebody's clapping. They probably said something amazing. Let's walk through the place where they got the stuff. So much stuff, I can see it already. Oh, we got an impression going on over to our left. Really good Trump impression happening. Exciting stuff. This is why we come here. To my left, you'll see a whole bunch of stuff. To my right, you'll see a whole bunch more stuff. And then behind us over here, we have, guess what? Even more stuff. It's all very patriotic, very exciting. I think we want to go over this way. We want to go get into the main hall, see what's going on in there. So this is the cheaters screen. If you don't want to go in the main room and like actually sit in a chair and give like your attention to the speaker, you can just chill out here and pretend like you're just taking a nap, or you can eat snacks. Should we be cheaters or should we go into the room? Into the room, okay. We'll give it 100%. I just want to point out all the influence things. Oh, they just finished. So this is the main hall where all the speakers speak. Very ambient lighting. Charlie Kirk is on stage right now, and he's telling us about how awesome Turning Point is, which we already know. He's probably going to inspire us with his wisdom.
They are working to grow their chapter, to fight their administration, to get the fellow students on board.
I'm in shot. Gotta get out of there.
Boom. Yeah, Lily's rocking it, man. That's so great. That's fun. And you know what? She pointed out in the beginning of that video how many signs and how many posters and how many how much branding it goes into a convention hall. You would think that TPUSA actually owned the building. They I don't know who. I mean, whoever got the contract to make signs for a Turning Point event. They've got to be gazillionaires now. Good news, folks. Good news. Lily will be live on the show on Monday, I believe. We'll debut another video. I believe that's the plan. So be sure to tune in on Monday. We'll have Lily live here. We'll talk to her for a little bit and see what's in store for the rest of the session and the year for her and for her team at In the Know Idaho. Really good stuff. Really good stuff. Okay. We're still waiting. We're still waiting to see if a great legislator can come in. Oh, In the Know Idaho is watching. She says, it's so strange to hear someone ask what merit means, as if there is something sinister about earning stuff. Spoiler alert, there's not. Yeah, not at all. Not at all. That's great. Well, we'll talk to Lily about merit when she comes in here. If that's who's doing the handle here. I don't know who's behind that comment. It could be somebody else. We don't know. That's the thing about the internet. You have no idea. I don't even know if I'm real at this point. Okay. What did we want to get into? We wanted to get into, we talked about this on Mondays. Something we call the drawer report. And as Brian Allman was on earlier, things are slow this week. There's just a few things, a few bills coming out that we've covered, but we expect the bills to start flying soon enough. Maybe within the maybe not next week, but maybe the week after. There's so many meetings that start to happen. They have to do presentations and they have to do orientation and they have to kind of just ramp up and get everything going. So you're not going to see a lot of bills in the first 2 weeks or so, but we expect it to heat up. So with that, we're here to watch, right? We're watching. And one of the things that is crucial, especially with the way the election went this year, is that we have a huge House full of conservatives who won their election and won their primaries and whatnot. And they're looking at the bills that got stalled in the Senate, wondering what happened to them and where they're going to go. And we went through some of these last week, but there were certain bills that came through. For instance, there was a bill that, what was this bill? This was an interesting bill. 525, no duties to be unnecessarily or unreasonably tyrannical. This dealt with a lot of things. This was House Bill 525. It dealt with mask mandates. It dealt with lockdowns. And this bill, if I'm correct here, actually made its way to a hearing in the Senate Health and Welfare Committee, if I'm correct. And it actually got a hearing, but then it was voted down. It didn't make it out of a hearing, even though it passed the House overwhelmingly. And so based on the notes here, it was the powers and the duties of health district boards. It stops trying to remove the preventative health duty of district boards and health, but it retains the replacement of all things required with necessary and reasonable things required. We listened to some of this debate, and this was trying to just tell health districts that they have a sort of a mandate or the ability to do things that are necessary and reasonable to mitigate the spread of a disease or some sort of health risk. Currently, it says all things, and the all things is what led us to this sort of tyrannical behavior of mandating masks and telling people they couldn't open their business and the 6 feet rule and separating all sorts of things, right? So this bill would have changed the language from all things that the districts can do, all that these health districts can do all things, to necessary and reasonable things required to do what they want to do. It was a very simple change. And so it made its way through the House, and by the time it got to the Senate Health Committee, Health and Welfare Committee, you had a tie vote in committee. Now, generally there won't be tie votes because there's supposed to be an odd number of folks in the room, but that day somebody didn't show up, and you ended up having a tie. And it was Senators Wintrow, who we've talked about earlier, Senator Taylor, who's also a Democrat, the two Democrats, and Senator Abby Lee, who retired last year, and she was a Republican out of District 9. And so Senator Abby Lee teamed with the two Democrats to basically kill this bill in the committee. And you can see here, what is that vote total? Man, I got to get my glasses. Look at that vote total in the House, 58-12. 58-12. And last year there were 11 Democrats in the House, and they all voted against it, along with Republican Dustin Manwaring. So Manwaring teamed with the Democrats to put his name as a no for this bill, and then the bill went to the Senate, where Senator Abby Lee teamed with the two Democrats to kill it. So again, the Democrats have all the power when all they need to do is grab one or two Republicans in the Senate to kill these bills. The chair, Senator Van Orden, Senator Bjerke, who was just with us, and Senator Zeiderveld voted for the bill to bring it to the Senate floor. So that's the situation that we're in, is that these bills pass in the House, and when they make it to the Senate, they get stomped on. They either don't get it, they either get ignored, or things happen and the Democrats are able to control a committee. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I could go on a little bit of a rant here against these Democrats, because I don't understand how one could still be a Democrat after all that we've seen the Democrats stand up for and do over the past 4 years, just the past 4 years. To say I want to be a part of that political party is bizarre to me. It's absolutely bizarre. But when you have cultural Marxists in these positions, it's no wonder. I mean, it's no wonder. And then, of course, being in Idaho, you've got a lot of folks who know that if they're in a particular district that's not in the north end of Boise or anything, that they have to run as a Republican in order to get elected. And those masks can drop rather quickly, especially when you see vote totals like that. And when they're repeatedly done, you can pay attention to who's really wearing a mask when they're showing up to Congress, to the Statehouse. Okay, let's look at another bill real quick, folks. This was a bill, House Bill 616, died in the Senate Health and Welfare Committee after it, and get this, it passed unanimously. It passed unanimously in the House. This bill would, and there were two absent, but this bill clarifies the rights of parents to access confidential statements in their children if they're over 14, because in Idaho, there's a cutoff with 14 in terms of privacy. So this would have allowed parents to look at confidential information in their child's over 14 mental health records under moderately broad circumstances. And this bill was presented by Representative Julian Young, who lost her race by 2 votes in the primary. But yeah, let's go back to the statement of purpose there, just so that everybody can read just exactly what this thing would do. This legislation ensures that the parent of a minor over 14 years of age is able to obtain medical health records under certain circumstances. So you can't get right now. You can't get the medical records of your child over 14. Mental health records. And why is that important? Why is this important? Because of the epidemic of the grooming that's going on, where folks are trying to get in the heads of minors and make them question whether or not they're a boy or a girl, or what their sexuality is, or what their gender is. I'm not, you guys know, I'm preaching to the choir here. And so, and they keep it from their parents. What was it? Matt Walsh's documentary, What is a Woman? I mean, they uncover all of this stuff, and we've seen it over and over again. And so this law simply would have said, hey, parents, if they want to get a hold of their mental health records of their child over 14, that they should be allowed to do that. And they absolutely should be allowed to do that. And everybody in the House, including the Democrats, thought the same because they passed that bill unanimously. And then it made its way over to the Senate Health and Welfare Committee, where it didn't even get a hearing. According to my records, it didn't even get a hearing. No one paid attention to it. Why? Did they? I mean, and that's the thing when you think about the backroom dealings that are going on. Did everybody just pass it? No, and they say, oh, the Senate Welfare. They say, oh, just pass it because when it comes over here, we're not even going to look at it. It won't even be an issue. Who are you working for? Who are you working for? What segment of society is wielding all the power here? It's really frustrating, but it's a new day. It's a new day, folks, and you need to voice your opinion on this. If this is something you don't care about, then you don't care about. But I don't know. I'm just looking at the bills that get overwhelmingly passed in the House, trying to point them out to you. And if this upsets you, then call your senator. Call your senator and say, hey, what happened to that bill last year that passed the House so that parents could look at the medical records of their 15-year-old child in school, in public school, no less, right? That's where it happens. Call your senator and ask them if this is an issue you care about. You probably didn't even know what was going on because the mainstream press, they don't focus on this stuff. That's why we're here. That's why we're doing what we're trying to do. And so you need to call your senators or call our show and leave me a message and I'll deliver to them. If you're shy about confronting a senator, I get it. But you can call that number down below, 208-402-4915. Leave me a message. Tell me what you feel about this issue. We'll play it on the air and I'll send it. I'll build a compilation and send it to the Senate. The Senate is on notice, folks. The Senate is on notice. The House passes bills overwhelmingly with supermajorities, and then you ignore them? This is the people's business. This is the people's business. Okay. I'm going to calm down a little bit. We'll take a quick break if we're ready for it, and we'll be right back.
We need to start making Idaho first, meeting the needs of Idaho families.
Idaho is the dirt under your fingernails after an honest day's work. Idaho is the hug around your neck when your daughter spells her first word. Idaho is the written word of the law, steadfast and impartial, guarding liberty for all. Idaho is the family rifle passed down, a legacy of protection and the right to stand firm. Idaho is the echo of your own voice, unshaken and free, standing tall among a world silenced. Idaho is the home that's built to weather storms, not empty wallets. Idaho is the quiet trust between a patient and healer, unbroken and sacred. Idaho is the hymn carried by the Spirit, gathering neighbors together in faith and purpose. Idaho is the laughter around a campfire, a family's bond growing stronger with every word. Idaho is the pioneer's will, firm and clear. We govern ourselves, free and unbound. Idaho is what America was. Let's keep it that way. Ask your legislator to sign the Citizens Alliance of Idaho pledge to preserve our shared values. We ride together.
Okay, before we wrap out of here, I kind of want to walk you through a little bit about how to pay attention to what's going on in committee. And I just shared a webpage with the folks here. Yeah, here we go. So this is we'll show you two different types of pages. This is the Senate reading calendar. This is what is going on, what is scheduled to go on Monday. And as I told you before, there's not much going on. So the Senate reading calendar, eventually when things you can go back to that other one. When things get going, this will be listed with bills that the full Senate will be considering. So if you go to the Senate calendar at the legislative website, you will find the Senate reading calendars, and you will find each day they will post what is going to be voted on that day. And sometimes they'll get to the bills, and sometimes they'll adjourn before they get to the finish, and then they'll move stuff for a later day. But at least what's on here is what is expected. Okay, now we can go to the committee calendar. So and then what's going on in the committee, where the real fun is usually happening, is in the committees. And you can see here today is January 10, and it goes in order of the day. So this morning at 8 a.m., the Joint Finance and Appropriations Committee met. This is their agenda. And you can go down each one of these and look at what's going on in every committee. So go ahead and scroll down, and you can see here that we have the House Ag Committee, the House Education Committee, and all these committees on today did not meet. So there's no agenda. There's nothing to look forward to. But when you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see for next week, if they have scheduled something already, then you'll see something on their calendar. And I think there might have been one committee up there that had something on their calendar. Yep, there it is. Is that, nope. Am I wrong? It's going too fast for me. I guess not. Okay. Anyway, hey, Brian Allman's back with us.
Hi.
Brian, when you tell the people when you're looking to go which committee to go to, how do you decide? What do you decide on? Because sometimes when this thing gets going hot and there's like all these multiple committees happening at the same time, what do you look at? What do you look for?
Well, the website you've got up there is good. I also shared one with the producer. It's the committee's daily meeting summary, and I've just got it bookmarked. There it is. And so every day, really every late afternoon, early evening, if you go to that, it'll show the meetings for the next legislative day. Right now, it's still got today's meetings, which were not very common.
There we go.
But it'll show you, okay, who's actually meeting on the next day, what time are they meeting, and then if you click on the meeting time, it'll bring up their agenda for that day. And so this is JFAC's agenda for this morning, and it shows you everything they're doing. And conveniently on that PDF that comes up, it's also got a link if you want to watch it. And not on JFAC, but on the other ones, it's got a link in case you want to sign up to testify. So that's my number one go-to webpage for just checking out what's going on in the coming day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go on.
Absolutely. Yeah. And as you can see there, they have their regular meeting days listed. They have the room that they're in. And these are rooms that are in the hall, in the hallways of the Capitol. And I think if you click on that, does it take you, or does it take you to, there's the agenda. Yeah. So there's the agenda. Again, this is broken down, and then it's got a link to watch it live if you want to go watch it live if you're not in the building. And so as much as it feels like it's clunky and hard, once you get the hang of it, you can whiz around and watch all this stuff. So, but that's if you want to get in the weeds. All you need to do is watch Idaho Signal, follow Brian online, and we'll try to bring you the highlights of it. But if you've got nothing else to do and you've always wondered what is there something else I could do rather than watching Oprah, you can fill your day with all of the all of the agenda and stuff.
If you have over-the-air broadcast TV, you can turn it on Idaho Public Television, and they'll be airing these things. I've never done it myself, so I don't know how you switch between the things, but they air it as well. But for me, it's easier just to be here. If I happen to be at home and not at the Capitol, I'll usually put up the different committees on different screens and mute or unmute depending on what they're talking about, and then bring up the House and the Senate floor and listen to them, see if anything interesting comes up.
Oh, you're such a nerd. I love it. We love it. We're thankful for it. I'm the same way, so I'm the nerd too. Hey, real quick, you mentioned Idaho Public Television. I just want to shout out what we're doing here and all the folks that are watching. When the Governor Little's address was happening live, the Idaho Public Television was streaming it on their YouTube channel, and at one point they had like maybe 60 or so viewers. And we were broadcasting it as well, and we were well over 600. Maybe we topped 800 views. And so So that was pretty awesome, man. That just shows the power of the internet, the power of what we're doing, and I'm so grateful for those who watch and share the program. So that was pretty cool to see.
Yeah, it's been great to be part of a growing conservative media ecosystem. Idaho Public TV, I think what they do with regards to broadcasting the Capitol stuff, the committees and things, I think that's reasonable. Why we fund them for cartoons, I don't know. But we don't want to have to rely on things like the corporate press or TV news stations that have been around for years and are further left than Kamala Harris to interpret what's going on at the Capitol for us. So I'm glad to be a part of this.
Yeah, well said. And there's a lot of great folks out there on different social media channels and so forth doing that work. And so we hope to fold them in and bring them on as guests as well, so we can share the knowledge of who's out there and where to find this information. So Brian, really great to see you, folks. Everybody, IdahoSignal.com. You want to go there if you want to help support the program and keep us on the air. It's always grateful for that. And I wish all of you a fantastic weekend. Brian, we'll see you on Monday, and we'll see the rest of you then as well. Take care.
This bill, I think, puts a stake in the ground that says we have a sovereign right to protect what's ours.